Саламатсыздар ма, құрметті әріптестер. Бүгінгі семинарға қосылғандарыңыз үшін көп рахмет. Мен жұмыс ағылшын тілінде болғандықтан ағылшын тілінде презентация жасаймын. Назарларыңызға көп рахмет. Слайдтан көріп отырғанымыздай, I'm working on the state-sponsored, so this chapter is on the state-sponsored television series in Kazakhstan that looks at the overall belongingness and socioeconomic development. So that's the part of the larger book, and that's one of the chapters there. So the book is titled Mapping the Media and Communication Landscape of Central Asia, and it's been produced last year by the editors Lira Dukeyev and Berikbol. So that book is mainly consists of the authors of this book are mainly consists from the local scholars that give the voices for the emerging voices from the Central Asia to fill the gap in the field of media and communication. So there are different scholars who have been working like indigenous local scholars who've been in Western countries or the ones who are actually on the ground here in Central Asia. The book is mainly looks at the different, so I guess that's the first book that gives such an evolution and of the emergence of the media landscape in Central Asia that combines different contemporary issues, looking to the media, looking to the new media, social media, including some interesting TV productions. So I would so there are 4 countries that the topics are included on. So it's Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. So I wish that I highly recommend that you ask your librarians to obtain the book. So it's available on the Lexington. It's produced in the US, so you can buy the ebook for $50 or the hard copy for $125. Or also you can also buy certain chapters. For instance, you can obtain the certain chapters if you wish of the book. So it's also available on Amazon as well. So now I'll be talking about my chapter. Yeah. So what I'm looking in my chapter. So as the theme of this, as the theme shows, I'm looking to the television series and how that's and the 3 main questions about the belongingness, socioeconomic development, and rural development. So, so my background is in political science. That's why I'm looking at the perspective of the politics and national construction to the television series in Kazakhstan. So I'm not the media specialist, I'm not a journalist. That's why my vision, so my argument would be on the looking through the national construction, as I have mentioned earlier. So since the earliest time, since the since 1991 and later on, Kazakhstani government has invested through the different lenses to looking to the to constructing the national identities of Kazakhstan. So whether that was the monuments, like the abolition of the Soviet era monuments, or the changing the laws on languages, for instance, anything that can be visible, like renaming the streets. And I assume that the television series and television programs and the films was one of the tools for constructing the sense of national identity. And there have been many studies in terms of the television series, also the filmmaking in Kazakhstan. For instance, Rika Isaac, Marlene Lorvel looked at the state-sponsored, some of them, like for instance, Lorvel looked at state-sponsored films, and she looked at the patriotic entertainment programs, and others on the state-sponsored films. However, there have been a little research has been done on the television series. So there was some studies on television series as well. For instance, on the several studies and Peter Volberg produced the book on the Soviet legacy of the television, of the filmmaking in Kazakhstan. You can check that out as well. So although there have been many studies, my research fills a gap in terms of like contemporary emerging television series in Kazakhstan. So my study aims to provide the evolution, how the television series have been emerged in Kazakhstan since 1991 period, and how the viewers, so my main contribution is how the viewers interacted with that narrative. So that's one of my main contribution. So what's the key findings? So in this talk, I'll not be talking about in detail about the key narratives, like the key television series that I analyzed for this chapter. But I'll just provide just a bit of a background. So if you are, as the viewers, are interested, viewers and listeners and audience members are interested in looking more delve into the details, you can check that later. So one of the key findings that the state-sponsored Kazakhstan, so first of all, television series as of current periods, or the ones when I analyze this. So this chapter is written in 2020, 21, and that's why at that time the state-sponsored Kazakhstan, meaning that more the ethnocentric narratives been promoted through the family values in Kazakh couples, and promoting the sense of belongingness and attachment to the homeland. That's the whole narrative, because the landscape of the television series has switched to the owls, to the rural places, and the viewers' responses actually who to the watched K.i.n on daughter-in-law TV series that I analyzed for this chapter. Then they showed that they've been less exposed to the themes of belongingness and attachment to the country. Rather, they bring first of all, they bring the different narratives, including the authority of women, the comparison of city and rural, and rural socioeconomic development. So while the landscape and the whole television series, I would argue that promotes the idea of being belonging and attachment to the country, while the viewers unpack different narratives. So this by itself suggests that the narratives of the ethnocentric Kazakhstan are diverse and sometimes can be contradictory. So they're not moving towards the towards the one like mainstream Kazakhstan that would be more of a, like, for instance, more liberal or more conservative. I would like to emphasize that they're more diverse in a sense, in its discourse, in its meaning, in its substance. It's more diverse. In terms of methodology and research, I used interpretive analysis of the content and responses of viewers on YouTube to the first season of K.i.n, daughter-in-law, why I have chosen this TV series. That's the most watched TV series. Each of the episodes got more than 1 million viewers. That was in the period when it's released. So this TV series produced by Harvard Television Agency, and it's screened simultaneously both in the TV and also online on YouTube. So the top users' comments been coded using the MyStudio quotative analysis program. So I have excluded those comments that's been focusing on the artist performances and appearances and all other irrelevant comments. So I mainly focused whether they've been responding to the given mini series in each of the series. And the future research also could build on this study and look to the other state-sponsored television series and explore how these narratives may have been perhaps evolved over the time. In terms of like the importance of the television series in Kazakhstan, TV is the most significant source of information in Kazakhstan, I guess that's the information that below you see. It's late 2000s, 2000 perhaps 15 or 2020, so it's late 2000s. There are no newest data was available for 2021, 2019, and 20 at the time when I was writing this chapter. So 76% of Kazakhstani watch TV at least once a day, an average of 3.5 viewing hours per day, and 61% of the viewers are aged about 6 and above. And that's been like the average time consumption on TV has increased during the COVID lockdown. It increased by 24%. Despite to see that the good number of people who have been watching TV, their numbers are actually declining in Kazakhstan. Yeah, for the local TV stations have decreased since the mid 2010. I would connect it with the widespread of the internet access in Kazakhstan and the accessibility of the foreign TV channels, which is now 77%. Also the greater reach, as I have mentioned, internet, and so more and more people have getting access to smartphones, and that gave them that also the average data consumption, as you guys use the buy the data, and you see that's not expensive for the average consumer in comparison with some other countries. Yeah. So that made the diversity of the information consumption in Kazakhstan. So there was online and development social media. Of course, that's happening. That's trend perhaps all over the world, and Kazakhstan is part of that. In Kazakhstan, there are 15 national channels accessible in Kazakhstan. They target diverse audience, and many channels are state-owned. For instance, one of the huge and one of the big TV channels in Kazakhstan, that's Abay agency, and there are 4 affiliated TV agencies with that. So Abay agency mainly was focused on the delivering the news, but lately it's changed its concept since 2000s and become more of a family-oriented TV channel, and Kazakhstan television series, and that's one of the oldest television series, television channel in Kazakhstan, and it's been founded during the Soviet times, and the majority of it's only screens and delivers in Kazakh language. It changed its concepts in late 2000s, and the concept in late 2000s, yeah, and it has a high accessibility rate, so it's accessible to 98% of the population. It's not only in Kazakhstan, also the bordering regions, and also the bordering Mongolia, for instance, or Xinjiang. Or some other countries where the ethnic Kazakhs are living. So that's about Kazakhstan, yeah, as I have mentioned, and it's the channel itself promotes the history and culture of Kazakhstan, and it's changed from K to Q, yeah. So that was my major shift. There was the shifting towards the Latin shift in Kazakhstan, Latin script. Sorry. That's why takes the niche of being more of a Kazakh centric. Then there are Первый канал Eurasia, there are 2 shareholders, and that 20%. So I would like to emphasize that the statistics of before 2021 and 2020. I don't know how that's been changed or shifted lately. So there might be some changes. So 20% owned by the Первый канал, which is the state sponsored, which is the TV of the Russian Federation, and 80% Kazakhstan Television Radio Corporation. So it's 52%. Most of them is the Kazakhstani content produced, screened on the Первый канал, and the rest is produced in the by Russian So it aims to target like Russian-speaking audience in Kazakhstan as well. There are some other private zones like KTK or the Седьмой канал or Astana, 31 канал. All of them are owned by the private owners and private owners who've been close ties to the former president. Perhaps that might change recently with political changes occurring in Kazakhstan. But anyway, so all of these TV channels, although they've been some of them being state-owned, some of them being private, they try to balance out those things within within different channels. So if one TV channels lack the political component, for instance, some privately owned TV channels would deliver that political content and try to balance out so that creates the imaginary vision that there are like that there are diverse visions, so diverse views are equally incorporated to different channels. So that's what they and how they compete for the viewers and target different viewership in the television landscape of Kazakhstan. Despite that, so in terms of locally produced television series in Kazakhstan, yeah, since 1991 that was not possible because it was local production was super expensive. That's why since early 90s, early 2000s, mainly the Russian exports Latin American soap operas been dubbed into the Kazakhstani television market, and then it's been changed to lately to, so it was like Latin ones, then Latin American ones, and changed to the South Korean, Indian, Turkish. So that was the main content in the television series. However, with the law that's been introduced in at the beginning of 2000s, that the television channels in Kazakhstan have to 50% of the streaming must be in the Kazakh language. So it's resulted to increase some of the local content, but it was after the midnight. So the quality of that content was not good actually, and it didn't target the viewership. So it just was there to comply with the state law. So what the television channels did is just they programmed the Russian channels, and they translated some Russian programs into Kazakh, which been streamed after midnight, or after midnight during the day they streamed the Russian content in Russian language, and they streamed the content in Kazakh language later on. So that's the creator. So that's the goal. So what I wanted to say is the expense of the price, and price affected hugely, and that's why also the compliance on the law also had pushed that, but it was not quality-wise, it was not good. So what we see in terms of in the evolution of Kazakh language, but lately we see that the state-led support developing for the Kazakh language became more widespread in national television series for nation building. Project by 2021 national television series in Kazakhstan was acquired 30% of broadcasting Kazakh language. That has to be increased by 50% 2002. Yeah, I have mentioned all of this in the previous slides. And that's why in mid-2000s there have been increase of the Kazakh, as I also have mentioned that in the previous slide, but I have to add that import of foreign content was much more cheaper than producing the local content. Also, they've been had, like according to some commentaries, they've been like the TV series from South Korea or Turkey or India had a was closer to Kazakh values that's been promoting also the family values, respect for elders. So that's been aligned with the Kazakh-oriented culture. That's why it's been widely watched by the viewership in Kazakhstan. Furthermore, however, in 2010, there has been start of the criticism of the negative impact of foreign television serials in the, so that's been affecting the consciousness of people. Some ethnic central organization oppose that we have relying on television series. Also that's been, some of them even have mentioned that the threat to the national, like the spread to the national identity. That's the most of them been in the higher government level. Some of them, especially the Minister of Culture, they have been criticizing that Kazakhstan over-relies that. So then the national produced content being following that criticism was mostly came like that's been amalgamated from the also the from the government and from the public, and the law adopted in 2012 that required that 50% of the content by 2018 must be locally produced, and that must be also be competitive for the viewers, and also that's why the program enabled the state-sponsored television station to outsource domestically their content, by 50% and then 60%. That been enabled the production of the domestic TV series, so less reliance. And after the Ukrainian crisis in 2024, there was the huge debate in Kazakhstan and the on the reliance on the Russian information space, from Russia, that we have lack of production of our own content. That made the I guess that's to some extent coincided with the that made that state funding and subsidies were given to the state and privately owned channels to produce the television series. That's why their numbers have expected to be rise, but in practice they've been decent for more than like 20. So they've been raising a lot. They have been rising a lot. So that's been television service, and in this article first I analyzed. So in this chapter I analyzed the into the evolution of the television series, starting from the pre-acrostic TV series from the earliest 90s period, and later look to the brothers, which is аясында, and then Astana, моя первая любовь, Astana is my first love, Astana my love. If I'm wrong, correct me please. And then I look into the what sort was landscape, what sort was the features of this television series, who are the actors, what sort of discourses that's been promoting, and interestingly, who's been financing those TV serials. After that, I focus on the k.i.н television series. After I given a short analysis of the films, of the miniseries itself, and then focus on the viewers' interaction, where I have mentioned most of the family values being promoted, and there are some also interesting discourses, interesting features have been provided. Yeah, so if you'd like to know more about that, I would encourage you to obtain that chapter. Also, perhaps you can ask your library to obtain the chapter, that chapter. So thank you everyone, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.